AI will be, if we're still not onto it, we are well behind life. Our competitors are obviously on that bandwagon, and I'm talking of the wider set of competitors, the telcos, and the rest of life. I somehow think that the Facebooks of this world, and Facebook is pretty old, but something new is going to come up that makes banking change quite dramatically, and AI will be part of that.
Of course, artificial intelligence. That's resonating with me quite a bit. Of course, people are talking about Chat GPT. I mean, they're saying it's the next big thing. I wonder how banks are going to use that.
Banks were not allowed to charge interest beyond a given level that was capped in the law. That was then repealed. And as we were trying to get to terms with the developing scenario, COVID hit us. And COVID disrupted quite a bit of strategies that banks could have put in place, and not just banks, but virtually all sectors, all segments of the economy. Then after that, we had a slowdown in terms of economic growth because of the electioneering period. Now, after the electioneering process, we know subsequently there's these geopolitical tensions that are affecting not just banks, but affecting the economic activities in the country in terms of what's happening, for example, in the Ukraine-Russia war. So that's the kind of scenario that we have currently as we try to recover from those shocks. And I think banks, therefore, have got to be aware of that scenario that is evolving as they think of developing their own strategies on how to be able to serve their customers in this evolving environment.
Remember, this part of Kenya, it deals more with agriculture. And the kind of agriculture will rely on the natural rains. So when the rains are not there, our people really suffer.
Now, when you're thinking about climate change, that is one thing that is going to create sudden shocks. In fact, it is already creating sudden shocks. What does that mean? We're going to see decreased incomes. We're going to see people losing jobs. Now, if I was in the banking sector, I would be worried, especially in Kenya, because how do you make sure that your customers in the long term are able to do sustainable agriculture, for example?
I mean, look, climate is probably the one that's super important to us. I think the opportunity for M-KOPA right now in terms of our impact on the climate is really vast, especially as we think about getting into e-mobility. You know, the offsets that we can generate by selling electric mobility or electric bikes to people in Africa is huge. You know, I think petrol bikes are 10 times more polluting than cars.
When it comes to climate, it reminds me of a discussion I had with some customers from Gikomba, and they mentioned that because there's drought in Kenya, it's negatively affecting their sales. And I was, can I say, shocked that rains not happening in the country stops sales in Gikomba. In my wildest dreams, I never made a direct relationship to that.
As a client, I haven't had any problems with hacking on my account, no. And every time I consult, when you get social media doing the rounds and giving the warnings about all the conning, I think you've been on top of that game.
So a number of banks, for example, are carrying on with their own ways of trying to ensure that they are walking the sustainability journey. A few banks are ahead of others. Others have gone a step ahead. They have put, for example, sustainability reporting.
I think artificial intelligence, I think anyone who's been paying attention to the news over the last several months and anyone who's been using ChatGPT or DALL-E over the last several months, including myself, I think we're just starting to realize how powerful those tools are, but I don't think there's really an appreciation yet for how they can really be implemented into businesses fundamentally to drive efficiencies, to generate growth. I think if there's sector teams at Standard Bank who are seeing how those tools are being implemented in companies. I think it'd be incredibly useful.
Then on the other hand, there is people living with disabilities. These are people who, they are necessary in order to contribute to the economic growth. Now, for them to be able to contribute to the economic growth, they have got to be enabled to participate within the financial inclusion agenda. And so we have got to create specific facilitation for them, especially given the fact that many of them actually have got some very unique challenges. And unless we do something about having innovative products that will be able to facilitate them to access our banking services, we'll always leave them behind.
I mean, the women agenda is obvious. Climate obviously has become a relevant part of the world. I think we just need to make sure that we are actually putting our money where our mouth is and not making it an agenda that is politically correct. And being collaborative with the rest of the world is certainly a big part of the way the world works today. I think there are much bigger, fewer organizations that are going to thrive, and you've got to be one of them, and you've got to collaborate with everybody else to achieve that.
We have got to ensure that we demonstrate to the public that besides the profits, which are important for purposes of the business being sustainable, we also have got to be alert to the ensuring that we have got a sustainable environment. We have got to ensure that the social concerns within our consumers and other stakeholders are also addressed. So it's an integrated approach where we are looking at the economy, we are looking at the environment, and we're looking at also the social implications, so that we then have an industry that will be able to outlive us into the future.